was 23 years old, 9 months pregnant with my first child. I'd wanted to work from home, which, it was 32 years ago. It wasn't even really a thing. My mother was in property management, and she knew of a startup general contractor who was looking for somebody to literally type up their subcontractor list. I talk type like on a typewriter. Um, and it seemed like the perfect fit. So I was doing that. I had my daughter. When she was about 3 months old, they needed me to come into the office. So my only stipulation was as long as I could bring my daughter to work with me, which they fortunately allowed. So I went to work in the office as just basically the secretary. He came to me, I don't know, a few weeks later, like, hey, there's this like new program, QuickBooks. Do you think you can figure this out and like handle our books? So I started doing that. Then I moved up to, I guess, the office manager, moved from there to assistant project manager. And that time I had my second child, who I was taking to work with me as well. Um, and then, gosh, I was there for about 10 years. In that time, on the tail end of it, I left. At that point, was a very abusive husband. Had just bought a house. Me and the two kids were happily living in our own little sanctuary when they laid me off. They had a change of ownership. I'd been there about 10 years. They had a change of ownership and I got laid off. So I literally was on my porch swing at my new house trying to figure out life and what I was going to do. I remember drinking a glass of wine, sitting on the porch swing, saying, I just want to be an artist. Like, maybe I'll just be an artist. Then quickly realized that I have no artistic ability. So that was a flop. I got a phone call, I think it was like the next day, from a subcontractor I'd worked with who knew of another general contractor who was hiring much closer to home, which was very fortunate. And he was looking for a project manager. So I called. He called me in for an interview and was like, look, I'm going to give you a rope. You can either climb to the top or hang yourself with it. And that was really a pivotal moment in, I guess, my career journey. I went to work for, he was wonderful. My boss was amazing, taught me so much. I stayed with them for about 7 years. In that time, I met my current amazing husband, who is also a veteran, and is just the most incredible human being alive. And he was pushing me, do you really want to work for somebody else? As a woman-owned construction company, you should start your own business. I had other people in my ear telling me the same thing. People will beat down your doors because you're a woman-owned business and you're going to be a millionaire. And this is just the easiest path to travel. You should definitely do it. All these wonderful things that have yet to come to fruition. But it gave me, I guess, the confidence and courage to kind of take the leap of faith. And in 2012, I started Integrity Construction Group. Fortunately, I had a subcontractor I'd worked with for a while, basically wanted to be my silent partner because he also saw the dollar signs that, oh, we'll be millionaires in no time. So he was a silent partner that pulled out a line of credit for me, basically for, my startup costs, my salary during the time I was establishing the business, those items, and kind of helped me a little bit with, I guess, pointing me in the right direction to, how to get your business license, the things that were needed that I just didn't know. There's a lot of legwork. There was a lot of searches on trying to figure all of this stuff out. And fortunately, like I said, a very supportive husband who was just the whole backbone and my courage and my fallback too when things were rough and rocky. So I guess like the first year or so, it was just me. I was doing the estimating. I was the superintendent for the projects that I got. I was sleeping on job sites, when I had nighttime work and waking up on a job site to be a superintendent, working from my car, trying to do estimates to keep in touch with people and things. And then about a year into it, my daughter was 9 months pregnant and she was doing nursing and couldn't physically, lift patients and do things that were asked of her at 9 months pregnant. At that point, I was like, well, I could probably use your help, getting this business going, more ramping up things. So she came to work with me about a year after I started. The silent partner, it was literally, he signed a line of credit that allowed me to start it. So I was able to buy him out after about 3 years. And now it's just it's just my baby. I guess a lot of it was money in the beginning, of not thinking that I could afford to hire the proper professionals to help navigate things. I've since learned very valuable lessons that you do need, those in your back pocket, just for, somebody to work with, somebody to get advice from, things like that. We now have a team that we work with. We have a very good accountant. We have a lawyer that, we call on the rare occasions that we need one. And yeah, the other thing that I also didn't realize is how important networking is, and just joining the different chambers, going to the different networking events, things like that. I didn't do that in the beginning. I was probably about 5 years in before I started actually meeting people, going out and doing the networking events. And those have been very pivotal in keeping us alive, especially during the slower times. People want to work with people they know. And if you get your name out there and meet people, it's a great avenue to furthering the relationship into a business relationship. Most of our work is with small businesses. And I guess that's where I've developed my passion. Is I love working with startup companies. I love, somebody coming to me and they want to open a restaurant and this is their dream, and they want to, somebody to help them make that dream come true. So that has been a lot, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. That has been more of our focus. In the beginning, it was all office space and big property management companies and things like that. And we still do projects with them. We have great relationships with a lot of our property managers that we've dealt with through the years. But a lot of our work nowadays has come through a leasing agent, because somebody has called them and wants to look at a space because they want to do, a build out for a restaurant or a medical space, or, spa spaces, things like that. And I think that's kind of where my passion has more evolved to, because we really have been lucky. A lot of things happened just the way that they were supposed to. Like I said, we basically focused on office space. That was our bread and butter for the longest time in our business. And then fortunately, right before COVID happened, which basically took away office space in the construction world, we had started pivoting into labs, had done some restaurants, a lot more medical spaces. And it wasn't that we knew anything, it just happened that way for us. And we were lucky enough that we were able to survive COVID and, basically change our business plan to pursue other avenues. I'll go on a job site. I've got pink hair. I walk on as a woman to a construction site. I don't run into it as much as I did way back when. But, like, oh, well, it must be her husband's company. Like, she must be just the front of it. There's no possible way that she knows what she's talking about, type things. And I think I've done a good job of, being able to walk onto a job site and command, look, I do know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I've done this long enough, and, things like that. So challenges, it's always, construction's a feast or famine business. You're either so busy you don't know how you're going to get it all done, or you're wondering where the next project's going to come from. So we're definitely growing. And a lot of that has come through just establishing, our reputation and establishing relationships. We're, like I said, we still do a lot of work with the property management firms that we did work with when we first started the business. So we have those, they always reach out to us when they have build outs coming up. We started working with a lot of leasing agents, because they're on basically the front lines of somebody, signing a lease to a tenant space. So they give us a lot of referral work, that we start in the very beginning of. A lot of our work now is because we've earned a reputation. We get a lot of repeat clients. We get a lot of referrals, things like that. So we're definitely growing this year, knock on wood, has been, and we're only second quarter of 2025. And this has been our best year to date. People are starting to beat down the doors a little bit, not just because we're women, but because we've earned a reputation that we do the right thing. So people are interested, and it's been a really good year. That's probably the least favorite part of our business, is chasing the money. And it's I don't know how to say, it's problem I don't know how to solve. You do have to have a line of credit or financial backing so that you can still pay your subcontractors when your clients are slow to pay. So a banking relationship is extremely important just in business in general, so that you have that, you can call, hey, my tenant is, or my client is, 30 days over and I have to get my subcontractors paid. So, you do run into that a lot. Once again, we've been very lucky that we've somehow been able to get through it all, with lines of credits, things like that. But that, we haven't had that one that's been so detrimental that it was dangerous, I guess you could say. I just did recently hire another superintendent for the business, but he's somebody I've known my entire life. My director of field operations has been with us 6 years now. I completely lucked out with him. I was just not sure where to go. Do you go to LinkedIn? Do you go to all of these other search engines for, hiring? I did not use those. I literally, for him, I went onto Craigslist and he had put an ad out as, looking for home improvement work. And I called him. It turns out he had commercial experience. So I brought him on and he's been just an amazing fit for our business. I definitely believe in networking to the extent that our office flooded back in December and it's a whole drainage issue with the state, blah, blah, blah. Well, this last time that we got all the rain, the South County Chamber of Commerce literally took the pictures that my daughter posted on Facebook and she reached out to the state delegates. And it's about who you know. She was like, look, these are good people. They help everybody else. We know them. This whole town knows them. Like, let's get the state and county involved and try to get some things taken care of. And she did that for us because of who we are and the networking aspect of it. Networking definitely plays a big role in our company. Literally, and I guess it's easy for me to say this right now because we are slammed busy. I've got work coming in. We've done a ton of networking over the last few years and have got people literally calling left and right for, wanting to work with us, wanting to give us projects. This wasn't the same problem I had fourth quarter last year. Fourth quarter last year, I would say my biggest problem is finding work. It was fourth quarter of the end of last year was absolutely horrible. I pay my guys, I brought them on as employees to promise them 40 hours a week. So, there was a lot of money going out of the door that wasn't being recouped because we just didn't have any work going on. We were in my house for probably the first 2 years, and then we rented a space in Davidsonville, and we purchased this building 2 years ago, right off of down near Deal. So this is our building. It's not gonna lie, it's 1.2 miles from my house, but I had to separate the whole being in the house and working. It just wasn't. Plus, we're bigger now, so we needed a space of our own. My daughter has a company truck now. She just got a Palisade. Our director of field operations has a big Dodge that I offered. So my truck is wrapped the bottom half in pink with our logo, which I don't know if you guys have seen the logo. Big black dog on it, and then the top half is just normal truck. And then when we got my director of field operations, I was like, we can do this like your business card. Like, I'll give you the gray half bottom. My truck looks like this on the side. His business cards are gray down here. I was like, I will wrap your truck like that if you want. Like, I get it. You're a man. He's like, no, this is the company. This is the colors. Do my truck the same as everybody else's. So we have three pink trucks running around out there right now.